Hello, everyone, and welcome to What's in Your Wallet? Best practices for managing your PeopleSoft applications. We are joined by our friends at MoTown, and I am Scott Lavery, Head of Marketing here at Appsian, and I would like to thank everyone for joining the PeopleSoft Innovation Summit. We are in day 2, nearing the end, but we are so glad to have MoTown be presenting with us. So before we kick things off, just a few housekeeping notes. First of which, everyone is muted. The session is being recorded and will be posted to the registration landing page within about a week or so. So keep your eye out for emails for that. We'll also be posting everything to our YouTube channel for the PeopleSoft Innovation Summit. So feel free to go and check that out if you're an avid YouTuber. Lastly, the session will be 60 minutes and will include a Q&A that will be taking place at the end of the presentation. So if you have any questions, you can put those in the question section of the control panel. That will be on the right side of the screen. So with that, I would like to go ahead and turn things over to Justin to begin today's presentation. Justin?
Hey, thank you, Scott. I appreciate it. So welcome, everyone. My name is Justin Moeller. I'm one of the managing partners with MoTown Group. And today, we're going to talk a little bit about some of the best practices for managing your PeopleSoft applications. Kind of the theme here being, what's in your wallet. So what are the things that you're using regularly to ensure that you are following best practices, as well as just kind of using tools that are available to you to effectively manage kind of the PeopleSoft environment. And we're thinking of this in terms of 2021, which is kind of different than 4 or 5 years ago, where the PUM update is a kind of a huge presence in the kind of the ecosystem now. So as part of kind of today's presentation, we have got 2 of our kind of senior sysadmins that are going to do most of the presentation, Andrea Kellogg and Nitin Bhatia, that are going to do most of the presentation, and I'll kind of facilitate the conversation. So again, kind of moving on here, as far as kind of what the general theme here is kind of, environment management, update strategy, usability, and future proofing. So these are kind of some concepts that we are going to talk through a little bit as we go through this presentation, and talk a little bit more about each of these, and how they impact and how you can benefit from some of the tools that we have deployed and used with other projects and clients in your own environment. So beginning here kind of with environment management. So I'll turn it over to Andrea to talk a little bit about some of the environment management aspects.
Hi, thanks, Justin. As Justin mentioned, I'm Andrea Kellogg, and I'm going to kick things off by going over some environment management related topics. We'll chat a little bit about PeopleSoft Health Center, but we'll also discuss automated refreshes and share a couple of our internal best practices. Next slide, please. We believe PeopleSoft Health Center is way too underutilized for what it gives us. It provides historic and real-time analysis of your architecture performance and the load placed on the individual components. Health Center dashboards are clear with a top-level summary dashboard and drill-down data graph. You can review your CPU and memory allocation and usage, as well as component-specific graphs and data. Next slide. For web servers, you can drill down to get info into your Java heap, your thread details, and your TCP sockets. For app servers, you can get graphs for the individual PS app serve processes and determine the load on each. And for process schedulers, you can drill down on those pesky PSAE serve processes showing CPU and memory load on each. Next slide. One thing we'll lightly touch on about Health Center is how to implement it. It's fairly straightforward, but configuration order is actually kind of important. You will need Elasticsearch and Kibana already loaded and working, as well as having your integration broker configured. You'll have some settings in your architecture components to set, like the PPM and JMX agents. And then next, you'll need to run the PTSF monitor configuration plugin. This configures the monitoring server and deploys the delivered dashboards to Kibana. This step needs to be done prior to installing Logstash. PS warns that Health Center may not operate properly if this is not done first. Once the plugin is configured, you can install Logstash using the Elasticsearch DPK, and then you should be ready to go. Next slide. So we're going to leave Health Center and move on to refreshes. And refreshes are at the core of every company's environment management plan. And we had a requirement at one client to have full environment nightly refreshes. So we set up a process for a 100% automated refresh setup on SQL Server. SQL Server agent jobs not only perform connection kills and drop and restore the database, but they also run a cleanup script that will perform any environment-specific truncates and table updates. A separate Windows script was set up to perform pre-refresh steps to cleanly shut down the various components and clear cache. It will also copy production files to a local location to keep flat files in sync with the state of the database. An additional Windows script runs any post-refresh changes, such as data mover encryption password, and will also bring up the application itself. Altogether, it's scheduled through the early morning hours, starting with the Windows pre-refresh script, the database refresh job, and then the post-refresh startup script. All automated, no hands-on required. Next slide. Next, we're going to share a couple of internal MoTown best practices. We found that keeping an environment management spreadsheet is best for keeping track of environment details and helps keep everyone up to date with architectural changes. While we're showing you here a very simplified version with mostly just servers and URLs, you should include any detail that you find yourself having to go back and re-reference repeatedly. Details like database and server user IDs, Linux home paths, and OS versions come in handy the most. And while it's not the best practice, but if your shop isn't using a password tool like KeePass or such, you'll want to have your passwords documented. Just make sure you have your spreadsheet password locked too. Keep it secure. Next slide. And one last quick best practice is port maintenance, which is another good thing actually to keep with your environment spreadsheet. Having a methodology to ports for environments that share a server is extra helpful. I tend to assign ports with a common theme. So you take a delivered port like 7,000 or 9,000, and I'll assign a number to an environment, like UAT will be 2. So everything has the second digit as a 2, 7,200, 9,200. It's a quick way to know what ports to expect and limit having to re-reference back to those port numbers. And with that, I will turn it back over to Nitin, who's going to talk a little bit more about update strategy.
Thanks, Andrea. Hi, my name is Nitin. I'm a senior PeopleSoft consultant with the MoTown Group, and I'm just going to touch briefly upon the update strategy cards. Just touch upon why it's important to have a PUM update strategy and how you can leverage some of the smart customization tools and automated testing features delivered by Oracle. Next slide, please. So we all know Oracle releases about 2 major feature updates every year, in addition to releasing about 4 to 5 regulatory updates in the form of PUM images these years. So a lot of customers start out with the thought process of wanting to keep updated with the latest PUM images. They look at the CFO and get excited about the latest features and updates. They start with a functional review, and for one reason or the other, sometimes it's a prioritization, sometimes it's a budget issue, and sometimes it's just because of the sheer volume of the new features being released in the image. All of that keeps getting pushed back until the point where you are so far behind that catching up to the latest PUM image is just like having a full-blown app upgrade. Or there might be certain cases where you are so far behind the PUM upgrade cycle where the business needs a feature from the latest PUM image or a bug fix. And once you create the change package for that, you realize, oh, there are 600 updates as prerequisites for this particular bug or new feature. So for this very reason, it's important to have a defined PUM calendar for yourself and dedicate some time every year just to do a functional review of every image that comes out. Dedicate some time to using and analyzing the smart customization tools that Oracle has offered. We are going to talk about that in the upcoming slides. And use some of the automated testing features that you can use to reduce the impact to your application and shorten the project timeline just to get current with the latest PUM images. So having a defined PUM calendar and having a defined cadence of absorbing PUM releases that allow you to absorb new features and fixes as they come out. Next slide, please. So let's touch a little bit on why people customize their systems. I'm going to keep this very short. So there are a variety of reasons why customers like to customize their systems. Businesses might expect features and functionality which has not yet been delivered by Oracle, like adding additional validation on data entry pages. Users might expect some additional instructions while opting for open enrollment. Some businesses might want to add additional branding to the application or modify the look and feel of certain pages just because we had a client ask us to change our look and feel of the PeopleSoft application from blue to red and to green, depending on which environment it was. Sometimes business processes themselves, might dictate some customizations like adding additional fields, changing some field labels, or hiding some pages altogether. Next slide, please. And as we all know, too many customizations are never a good idea. Just to summarize some of the problems that they might cause, you might delay the adoption of new features. For example, Oracle has delivered a new feature on a page, but you've already added a new field and customized some people code on that page. Now you need to go through the whole cycle of comparing the page, comparing the people code, doing an impact analysis, doing some retrofits and testing just to absorb that one new feature that Oracle has released, and just to make sure that your customizations actually work with whatever changes that Oracle made. So this, not only does this end up increasing the cost of your maintenance or for selective adoption for that matter, it stretches your project timeline to the point that it's really not feasible to be doing, from 4 PUM updates every year. So what can you do in order to manage these customizations? We'll just take a look at some of the tools that you might not help you completely eliminate them, but they will at least help you rein in and manage the customizations that you have in your systems. Next slide, please. So we're just going to take a quick look at how we at MoTown have used some of the recent tools to manage the headache that comes with customizing your systems. There are 2 main strategies to deal with customization. We can either isolate them, which is done by event mapping, which is you are calling certain code at different points of page build, or by using drop zones, which is just an area delivered by Oracle where you can make whatever changes you want. Again, these methods are still considered as customizations, but they are stored separately from the delivered code. And as a result of that, it does not impact any of your applications. I'm sorry, it does not impact any of your PUM update cycles, because you don't have to do a compare and a retrofit and extended testing just to make sure that your customizations work with whatever changes Oracle made. Another important strategy is to avoid customization itself, like using page and field configurator. This is a really powerful tool which has been delivered by Oracle in the recent tool versions, or by using approval page composer, again, really powerful for designing your own fluid approval pages. Next slide, please. So just taking an example of a recent project where a client wanted us to make data entry on their journal entry page just a little bit easier by filling up some of the default values based on a certain criteria. So in this case, the client wanted us to fill up the operating unit and department automatically based on which business unit was selected on the journal entry page. Now, usually this would be a custom code. You would have to go into the page people code and fill up the default values for operating unit and department. And whenever a new POM update comes out, which has made changes to the general line page, you would again have to do these compares and retrofits just to make sure that your general line page is still aligned to your business processes. But using event mapping, we could use the same code and store it in a separate application class. This will still be considered custom code, but it will remain intact to your POM upgrade and your your People Tools upgrade cycles. So no need to retrofit and test your customizations every time you apply a POM update. Next slide, please. And continuing in the same vein, we will talk about the Oracle Page and Field Configurator. It's actually a tool built on the event mapping framework itself, but it provides a lot more features in just one simple, easy to use configuration page, as you will see in the next slide. And in our experience, this is one of the least used smart customization tools, but it packs a lot of punch and it has the potential to eliminate most of the customizations that customers make. Again, this works for both fluid and classic pages. And since this is considered configuration, it can be migrated to ADS. No need to retrofit, no need to compare. Next slide, please. As you can see in this configuration screenshot, it allows you to make powerful customizations by just using a few clicks. You can modify fields, make them read-only, fill in default values, hide them completely based on certain roles, certain users. Again, this is all configuration. You will not need to retrofit these changes when you apply your next POM update. Next slide, please. So again, just a live example of how this tool might help you make customizations effortlessly. Here we see a salary plan page. Now, previously, if you wanted to make certain fields read-only on pages for certain users or certain roles, you have to go write people code and hard code security configuration into your code, which is never a good idea, because every time you make security changes, you'll have to come and edit the people code as well, and so on and so forth. But here, with just one checkbox, we can achieve this just by taking one checkbox and adding roles defined on the user list pages. So if you look in the next slide, this change has made the salary admin fields read only, and all we had to do was enter criteria for the user roles and just click one checkbox. So now we're going to take a look at another important smart customization tool, which is the App Engine plugin. Next slide, please. So Application Engine Action Plugins, it's more of a recent addition to the lineup of tools that Oracle has created. This tool allows you to write your own application engine code and store it in what's called a plugin and run it at certain points during a delivered app engine. Now, a lot of the customers like to customize the delivered app engines and insert their own code into the delivered app engines. And whenever that app engine gets changed, you have to go through the cumbersome process of comparing and retrofitting. Trust me, it's no fun doing that in an app engine. With App Engine Action plugins, you can basically insert your own code at certain points. It can be before or after a sequel. You can define which section or step it takes place in, or you could also replace entire portions of code which have been delivered by Oracle. So all of this is, again, still custom code. You will still have to create a plugin app engine, and you will still have to write the code yourself. But all this configuration will not be overwritten by subsequent POM updates or your People Tools update cycles. Next slide, please. So now we have talked about some of the smart customization tools. Let's talk about a little bit about how do you go about addressing these customizations. So one way to do it would be at the time of a POM update, which I'm referring here as an upgrade. For example, you're 20 images behind the latest POM image, and you're doing a big upgrade to catch up with the latest POM update. That will be a good time for testing the impact to your application components. And it makes sense, since you'll be having a longer project timeline, it makes sense to allocate some of your resources to maybe look into using one of these tools so that you can reduce the cost of ongoing maintenance and also for future updates. Another way would be to do what's called an iterative update. You can tie it to your selective adoption strategy. Whenever a latest POM image comes out, you decide that you need a new feature that has come out in the latest POM image. You decide to take that particular feature to your application. That'll be a good time to do a compare and figure out what impact that particular feature is going to have on your application. And using one of these smart customization tools, you can convert some of those customizations to configuration and just save yourself some headache. Another way to go about it is just to catch the low-hanging fruits. Focus on which customizations would be easier to eliminate and yet yield the most value going forward. One example that comes to my mind would be customizations made on things like field labels, page labels, or adding additional instruction text. Simple customizations which are easy to eliminate, but they are really a lot of pain during upgrades or selective adoption phases. Next slide, please. So you have decided to adopt one of these smart customization tools, and you have decided on a strategy to get to these smart customization tools. So what tools can Oracle give you in order to help you get there? One of these tools is called Customization Repository. So Customization Repository is, let's take an example. So let's suppose there's a set of customization that you struggle with every time you apply any POM updates or any maintenance or any people tools upgrade. They could be related to a single feature like a journal entry page, or it could be a part of a large customization project that you did a long time back on multiple modules. Whatever the case might be, you might be gradually replacing components in your application with, event mapping and drop zones just to make sure that, you're converting all your customizations into configuration. But there are scenarios where you just don't want to touch, certain pages. They're just too critical to your business processes, and you just don't want to touch it for the time being. And you just want to leave those pages or those records or the people code alone while you go on applying POM updates to your system. So Customization Repository is one tool that will help you avoid the conflict between your customizations and the latest POM images that you're applying to your system. So as you can see in the screenshot, it's a pretty easy to use tool. You can just create a customization group, which includes the objects, whether it be record, people code, pages, and components, and other tools objects that you want to track or you want to avoid customizing, and just add them into a customization repository, and just check the flag on the customization repository page and set it to no. Now, every time you create a change package, the customization repository will be referred to, and whatever objects are being impacted by that change package, those objects will be taken out of the change package, and as a result, those updates will not be included in your change package. So basically, you can be rest assured that whatever POM updates that you're applying to your system will not impact your core objects or customizations that you've made to your system. This way, you can keep your critical customizations separate from your POM update strategy. Next slide, please. Okay, so your POM strategy is in place and your customization footprint is minimized. Now it's time to reach the holy grail of PeopleSoft application management, and that's the PeopleSoft Test Framework. Now, can you imagine a world where you apply a PUM or a PeopleTools upgrade and you go home for the evening and enjoy dinner with your family, get a great night's sleep, and awake to show a report that says 93% of all your business processes are humming along after applying the update? Just think of how happy your users will be when they cut their testing time for a PUM update by 50 to 60%. So if you're not using PTF, you are missing a fantastic cost savings opportunity. This tool is free. It's relatively easy to install and set up, and all your human capital is spent on building your library of test scripts and cases, and it's reusable with each upgrade pass. And more than any other feature, we see clients start out with good intentions of using PTF. They build a few scripts, and then they just abandon the effort. This is not because the tool doesn't work or the value isn't realized. It's just that it just falls behind from a prioritization standpoint. So I can't encourage you enough just to set aside some capital dollars for truly building and embracing PTF as part of your application management cycle. We have previously advised our clients to start small with PTF, build a small test cases, few test cases, get comfortable with the tool, and then build upon the foundation. But since then we have just changed our tune because the projects that sometimes get started never get finished. Now we are advising our clients just to go all in on PTF just to realize the immense value it offers. Next slide, please. So just a few quick points on why PTF might be a great tool for a PeopleSoft setup. So PTF is a simple record and playback test automation tool. Sometime back, PTF had a limitation where it was not supporting, or at least not very stable, with browsers like Chrome and Firefox. They have gotten rid of that limitation now. Firefox and Chrome are fully supported. They have something called a Bring Your Driver facility where you can download the drivers for Chrome and use it with PeopleSoft Testing Framework. Test cases basically allow a recorded test to be used with different data without having to record a separate test case for each data scenario, which is a basic requirement of any automated test tool. The PDF tests themselves are PeopleTools objects, so you don't need to have an external application just to manage your test cases and your test data. You can just use Application Designer to just copy your PDF test assets from one environment to another. Also, PTF is free of cost. No additional licensing fees required. And the same set of PDF tests can be used for multiple PUM update cycles. So that, I think, is the biggest cost saver in the long run. You can reuse the same PTF tests that you have designed for one PUM update and use it for your entire life cycle of your PeopleSoft application. So with that, I'm going to hand over back to Andrea for usability part.
Thank you, Nitin. So we're going to talk a little bit more about improving the usability of PeopleSoft. We'll go into a little bit more on Elasticsearch and Kibana and touch on a favorite of our Appsian tool and give an update on what's new in the events and notification framework. Next slide, please. So we had briefly mentioned Elasticsearch and Kibana earlier with Health Center, and PeopleSoft has stated that their future direction will be heavily into Elasticsearch and are investing a lot there. So we think it's important that we do as well. Elasticsearch indexes can be used to not only allow searches to remain global search at the top of your navigation bar on all of your pages, but it can also be set up as an alternate component search. So you'll have the find an existing value and add a new value. But then there's a new tab that will be there that will be added or keyword search. The keyword search, you could put in various things for journals. You could put things like correction and have everything that mentions correction come back. So you get a wide variety of returns when you use that. Next slide. PeopleSoft does provide the methodology for creating your own indexes, but it does deliver a wide range of indexes that, once deployed and crawled, are available for use within the application. Here we're showing a sampling of the 73 finance and 36 HR indexes that were delivered in the most recent PUM images, wide-ranging already ready to go. Just deploy and crawl, and things like the keyword search just pop right up. Next slide. Kibana can then take those Elasticsearch indexes and couple them with delivered dashboards, and they produce working application dashboards you can access via PeopleSoft. As of the current PUM images, HR had things like workforce equity, incident analytics, and workforce composition delivered. And for finance dashboards such as trend analysis, financial performance analysis, and financial position trending were delivered. Dashboards give users a visual representation of their transactional data and their reporting data side by side. They provide an additional resource to be able to see into your current and historical data state, all within PeopleSoft. Next slide, please. Access to the Kibana dashboards are controlled internally by PeopleSoft permission lists, so you have complete control over what you want people to see and actually whether or not you want them to edit. They can be placed on home pages as tiles and as related information of fluid components. Overall, these visualizations give users a broader, more impactful view of the data that they are working with every day. Next slide, please. The installations of both are from the Elasticsearch Kibana DPK and are pretty straightforward installations. A couple of things to note: there are a lot of space requirements for Elasticsearch. Think about each index being less like the PeopleSoft indexes we know now and more like little mini data sources. So the data requirement can be really high depending on your usage. Also, the recommendation for installation is that it be on a separate server from your PS applications. And if you are wanting high availability, you'll want to look at having an odd number of server installations. This is to prevent what is known as split brain scenario and to prevent having a quorum of just 2. Kibana is a lot simpler, as it's recommended to only have a singular installation on one of those Elasticsearch installs. As a quick hint, though, you should note that Kibana.bat does not run as a service. It was meant to be interactive logging and runs in a command window on your server. Next slide, please. We'll cover a couple of our favorite Appsian tools. We find Appsian tools to really increase the usability of PeopleSoft, and that they add that extra level of needed security controls within PeopleSoft. Multi-factor authentication forces access challenges based on roles that can be applied all the way down to the page, component, or even the field level, further tightening what your users can see. It's easy to configure, and it enforces zero trust access. Next slide. Similarly, Appsian's data masking provides a robust solution allowing for full or partial data masking on any field, and it can even be applied to the query and search results you get back. Easy to implement and configure, controls are not only attribute-based, but they have additional access controls. They're capable of limiting visibility to just working hours or restricting access when viewed via mobile or desktop. Pretty robust. Next slide. So one last note we were going to do is on usability. We wanted to give you a heads up that the event and notification framework has been updated to allow text messaging, in addition to email and pop-up notification windows. Notification frequency can also be customized to avoid overwhelming your users with too much system communication that would end up ultimately being ignored if it's way too common. In addition, notifications can now be applied to pivot grids, giving thresholds and range options. Consider if you have payments exceeding a threshold balance, they can now notify appropriate personnel to be handled in a timely manner. And with that, we will turn it back over to Nitin to finish up with future-proofing.
You might be on mute.
Sorry. Sorry, yeah. So I'm just gonna cover some of the future-proofing cards, some of the latest features that have been released by Oracle, and some of the changes that are upcoming. Next slide, please. So Cloud Manager. Some of the latest features within Cloud Manager are zero downtime migration support. how many times has it happened that you've asked for a weekend's outage just to apply the latest common update or upgrade your people tools? So zero downtime migration support that basically takes care of the outages involved in moving your application to the cloud. All it's doing is basically creating a copy of your database and bringing it live on the cloud. So this is basically reducing your downtime from days to just a few hours. You don't really have to have a downtime to move your application to the cloud. It also allows you to start, stop, manage environments. This has been one of the core responsibilities of PeopleSoft admins in the past. Oracle has basically provided us tools in order to do it in a more user-friendly way. We can have one-touch PeopleTools upgrades and preserve our domain configurations at the same time, provided our applications are already hosted in the Oracle Cloud. And also we have tools to templatize and do one-touch environment refreshes from a cloud-to-cloud environment or do an on-premise to a cloud environment. Also, one of the features that had been severely lacking in the past in Oracle Cloud Manager was the option to retry or resume provisioning. So whenever you used to see Oracle Cloud provisioning fail, you had to dig out the error message and basically start the whole process again. Now it has introduced checkpoints where if a cloud provisioning process failed, you can resume it from the same point after fixing the error. Next slide, please. So there are some upcoming changes in COBOLs. Micro Focus, NetExpress, and Server Express. Its support is ending April of this year. And Visual COBOL is the only option going forward, and also the only option for PeopleTools 8.58. You can get Visual COBOL build tools for Linux or Windows, whatever the case might be for your environment. And if you're into modifying your COBOLs, delivered COBOLs, or writing your own COBOLs, you can get one of the Visual COBOL licenses for Visual Studio Eclipse. You need to have a Visual Studio or an Eclipse license if you want to do COBOL development. Just a hint for system admins out there, Visual COBOL for Linux no longer auto starts with the operating system. So you will need to include the auto start for Visual COBOL into your startup scripts. Next slide, please. Another major change coming in would be Oracle 18c support is ending June of 2021 without an extended support option. And if you are on Oracle C, you would have already made plans to move to 19C or higher if you want long-term support. And also, really important change, Microsoft is deprecating IMAP and POP3 authentication for Outlook. So if you're using NCF emails with Office 365 or Outlook, you might want to look to upgrade your PeopleTools to at least 8.58, since that is the only version which supports OAuth 2.0. And with that, I will give back to Justin.
All right. Yeah, thank you. So yeah, I mean, at a high level, we kind of covered basically some, some best practices and some, kind of general aspects and tools that we kind of focus on to manage your PeopleSoft environments in today's world, which, again, kind of reflects the new, the new kind of PUM, slash cloud, update, I guess, kind of update strategy that everybody is following nowadays. So, yeah, that was great content. We appreciate your, kind of your involvement and your participation. And if there are any questions, feel free to reach out to us. Our contact information is right here. We're happy to, answer any kind of questions that you may have with regards to any of the topics we covered today, or just anything in general, that might be of interest as it relates to kind of, this topic or really anything with regards to your, your overall PeopleSoft strategy. So again, we appreciate your time. Thank you, and have a great day.
All right. Well, thanks, guys. We'll certainly appreciate the presentation. It looks like we will have a little bit of a break We'll be starting back up again at 3:15 Central Time with real use cases of emerging technology in PeopleSoft. That's going to be presented by Spear MC. In the meantime, I would highly recommend checking out the Slack channel. We put the information in the chat section of the control panel there. It's really easy to sign up and join the conversation. And as far as we've been getting a couple questions about recordings, and I wanted to just reiterate with everybody that the recordings for all the presentations, those will be sent out likely next week. They will be posted to the registration page that everybody registered for their sessions on, along with posted on YouTube as well. So just keep an eye out for that. Lastly, I would like to mention that we will be sending out a survey on Friday. So if you've been attending the sessions these last couple of days, we would greatly we would greatly hope that you would want to fill that survey out. Let us know what you found useful. Let us know what you would like to see more of. Here at Appsian, we are definitely trying to schedule the next summit and continuously be doing these. And we mostly want to know what content everyone is interested in hearing about. So that is greatly useful to us. And just since we've got a couple minutes, a couple minute break here, I would highly recommend everybody, go to PSFTSummit.com, look at all the sessions that are there. If there are anything that you may have missed, you would of course get the recording. So feel free to register for anything, even if it was yesterday, and the recordings will be made available to you. And I would also make sure to check out our sponsors. Appsian, obviously, www.appsian.com. We would love for you guys to stop by. But I would check out any of the other presenters, any of the other sponsors. Everybody is here, just kind of trying to help the PeopleSoft community and bring added value where we can. So we would certainly appreciate your support. So until then, we have about 30 minutes, and then we will be reconvening at 3:15, again with real use cases of emerging technology in PeopleSoft, brought to you by Spear MC. So we will see you in 30 minutes. Stick around.
Hey, thanks, Scott. Appreciate it.